You're gonna want to see this. Something this big is kind of hard to comprehend even when it's right in front of you, but this speaks to how much fresh, frozen water is down in the Southern Ocean. For anyone wanting some perspective, take a look at the birds that are flying next to this thing. It's probably about 200 feet high, and that's just about 15% of what's sticking out of the water. The rest is down below, like an ice wall.
Like an ice wall. Like an ice wall.
Kind of wouldn't believe it if... Just keep going.
I'm back with part 2 of NASA, The Race to Space. The story of American space exploration, allegedly. Ah yes, the moon landing. In this iconic, yet highly contested picture, astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969 during the Apollo 11 mission. Some historians trace the beginning of the space age to October 4th, 1957, the day that Sputnik 1 was launched. But for decades prior, American men and women had been laying the engineering groundwork necessary to make the U.S. the world leader in space exploration. Upon the launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957, no country was caught more off guard than the U.S. The nation prided itself as a dream machine, and space was already a setting where fantasy and fantastical American thinking was thriving on television and in films and comics, magazines and dime novels. As Sputnik 1 orbited the planet, the idea of space travel became real, and American wanderlust turned to the stars. In July 1958, President Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act, which built the federally funded, civilian-run entity to be called NASA. NASA's mission was to expand human knowledge of Earth and of phenomena in the atmosphere and space, and to preserve the role of the United States as a leader in aeronautical and space science technology.
Another reading from the book, 200 Proofs Earth is Not a Spinning Ball, by Eric Dubay. No child or indoctrinated man in their right mind would ever conclude or even conceive, given to their own device, based on their own personal observations, that the Earth was a spinning ball revolving around the sun. Such imaginative theories, nowhere present in anyone's daily experience, require and have required massive amounts of constant propaganda to uphold the illusion. Astronomers say the magical magnetism of gravity is what keeps all the oceans of the world stuck to the ball. They claim that because the Earth is so massive, by virtue of this mass, it creates a magic force able to hold people, oceans, and atmosphere tightly clung to the underside of the spinning ball. Unfortunately, however, they cannot provide any practical example of this on a scale smaller than the planetary. A spinning wet tennis ball, for instance, has the exact opposite effect of the supposed ball Earth. Any water poured over it simply falls off the sides, and giving it a spin results in water flying off 360 degrees like a dog shaking after a bath. Astronomers concede the wet tennis ball example displays the opposite effect of their supposed ball Earth, but claim that at some unknown mass, the magic adhesive properties of gravity suddenly kick in, allowing the spinning wet tennis ball Earth to keep every drop of gravitized water stuck to the surface. When such an unproven theory goes against all experiments, experience, and common sense, it is high time to drop the theory. And I almost forgot.
So guys, I figured out how the moon affects our tides, okay? It's called gravity, which means objects with more mass attract objects with lesser mass. It's really simple. Let me explain it, okay? So the moon affects our tides because it has more mass than the Earth. But, the moon is smaller than the Earth, okay? But the moon is special. And the reason the moon affects our tides is because in certain... I'm going to go with Neil on this one. Next question.
Have you ever heard of Operation Paperclip? Well, if you haven't, it's when the United States took over 1,600 German scientists and engineers from Nazi Germany and employed them in our country. For example, Wernher von Braun was the leading figure in development of rocket technology in Nazi Germany, and immediately following World War II, he was employed as a director at NASA. He even worked with Walt Disney to encourage space travel, and in 1967, von Braun was inducted into the National Academy of Engineering, and in 75, he received the National Medal of Science. In 1967, President Truman said he wasn't reluctant to approve Operation Paperclip because the Soviets were going to do it either way.
The fact that they taught you that this place was a planet lets you know that it is flat. How, you say? The root word of planet is plane. And what does plane mean? Flat, level surface. So why do they say that the earth is round? Because of the atmosphere. Atmosphere. What's a sphere? A sphere is a circle. What's a plane? A plane is a flat, level surface. Now, if this planet has an atmosphere, that would be the firmament. They told you that the sunlight gets trapped inside of our atmosphere. That's why space is still dark. So yes, the earth is flat. The planet plane is flat, a flat level surface with the atmosphere, which gives you the circle that everyone be talking about. It's not a globe where it's floating around in space. That's all BS. Don't take my word for it because, who am I besides a free thinker?
Guys, I wanted to give you a little taste, a little hint, and a little insight into the deception that we're getting. Okay, so this here is a San Space Agency, okay, and they're commenting back to Trump, whatever, I don't care about all that. But look at this curve here. Wow, beautiful, right? You can't fake that, man. That is just gorgeous curve, right? Hold on. Yeah, the only problem here is the guys at Asan Space aren't too bright. They didn't realize that the curve is the same at ground level than it is up in the air. Now, it isn't just a sun, and this happens a lot, these wide-angle lenses, these fisheye lenses, man. And again, it's not just a sun, right? I assure you. Don't just trust me. Yeah, see, NASA's doing this shit all the time, too. And you'll get people, well, man, that ain't nearly that high. That's not what that look. No, brother. All you've ever seen is NASA. How many times you been to space, dude? Last Tuesday, you went up there, you watched an episode of Naked and Afraid? No, you didn't. Okay, and then they're, well, that means that, everybody's in on the lie, dude. It isn't that hard, my man. I assure you. Just like in the military, compartmentalization. Okay, and then if we look at these different space agencies and the nonsense they put out, wouldn't be too hard to maybe think they don't even talk to each other. Look at this. It's completely different. It's not even sort of kind of maybe accidentally close. Be better, guys.
So I was born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama, which is the home of the Space and Rocket Center. It's the home of NASA. It's where Wernher von Braun worked. And today it is known as Rocket City. My hometown is basically just a hotbed of lies and deception, you guys. I find it really weird because guess what it was known as before it became Rocket City? Guess what it was called? Before it became known for the space industry, where Wernher von Braun worked, it was known as Cave City, USA. It had the highest quantity of caves, you guys. So I want to know, is there some underground access point, an entrance to inner Earth, perhaps? Because as we know, the powers that be that don't want us to have access to the outer realms also don't want us to know about the inner realms. So is it any coincidence that Wernher von Braun chose this as his workplace? He probably knew something we don't. What are the odds? There's something definitely eerie going on here.
We have all been programmed to believe that there is no land at the North Pole. Just a bunch of ice sheets, nothing to see here. What if I told you that this is far from the truth? Not only is the North Pole home to the most exceedingly high mountain in the world, Mount Zion, the mountain of God, which is spoken about all throughout the Bible, it is also home to paradise, the Garden of Eden, which is still here to this day. Now prepare for a big awakening. This is one of the first ever maps created of the North Pole in the 1500s. Now I want you to focus on the middle here. You have a mountain with a river coming out of it, and then you have 4 rivers coming out of that river in the middle. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. So you have the river flowing out of Eden, which is directly under Mount Zion, and then you have the 4 rivers parting from that one big river. A lot of people think that God took the Garden of Eden to heaven, but why would he be guarding it with cherubims and a flaming sword if it was in heaven? Now back to the map, that mountain in the middle, it is called the Rupus Nigra. It's straight from Wikipedia. Rupus Nigra means black rock. The Rupus Nigra is a black rock magnetic mountain located at the North Pole. Funny how the biggest investment company in the world is BlackRock. They know the truth. Not to mention, Rupus Nigra is 33 French miles wide. Remember who loves the number 33? The Freemasons. So soon after this map came out, the map started looking like this. Unknown region, what is that? Here's your NASA satellite footage, just a couple of big black holes in the center. Oh, nothing to see here. So here I am in Psalm 48. Look what it says here. The city of our God and the mountain of his holiness, beautiful for situation. The joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, because it's in the center of the earth, on the sides of the north. So this mountain is the joy of the whole earth, and it is in the north. Look what it says here. Beautiful for situation. Beautiful for situation. The biblical usage is the elevation, the height. This is an exceedingly high mountain. It's not the Mount Zion, which is in Jerusalem, which is only 2,500 feet high. That's a foothill. That mountain was named after the real Mount Zion. And the devil taking him up into an high mountain, he showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. Where did he take him? Took him to the exceedingly high mountain in the middle of our earth in the North Pole. Now here's even more proof. This is a live view of the wind finder at the North Pole. What is that big old thing there blocking the wind? Guys, Mount Everest cannot even divert the wind. But there's something here at the North Pole that is diverting the wind. This is part 2. Like I mentioned, we have all been programmed to believe that there is no land at the North Pole. But by the end of this video, you're going to realize not only is it home to the mountain of God, it's also home to paradise, the Garden of Eden, which includes a city full of angels that goes underground. So starting off, let me introduce you to Justin Trudeau. He is the Prime Minister of Canada, which in fact is very close to the North Pole. This was a letter written to the Queen Elizabeth I. She was the Queen of England in the 1500s. Let's read what it says here. In the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, into which they empty these 4 indrawing seas which divide the North Pole. And the water rushes round and descends into the earth, just as if one were pouring it through a filter funnel. Sounds just like the maps that these explorers made in the 1500s. In the midst of the 4 countries, a whirlpool, and then 4 rivers coming out of it. Just like it says in the Bible. A river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. Look, it says here, it passeth through the whole land of Ethiopia, which is Africa. So these rivers go around the whole world. Our oceans are giant rivers. The North Pole controls our tides, not the moon. And it's funny how after the 1500s, all the maps started looking like this. Unknown region. Even NASA satellites, look at those big black holes in the middle. Now, the big mountain in the middle, it is called the Rupus Nigra. Look here. This is straight off Wikipedia. Look what it says here. Rupus Nigra, it means black rock. It is a magnetic black rock mountain located at the North Pole. Except there, under the bright pole, there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. Its circumference is almost 33 French miles, and it is all of magnetic stone. Why do you think all the compasses point north? Because there's a giant magnet in the middle of our earth, which is BlackRock. What's the largest investment company in the world? BlackRock. Now I'm about to prove all of this to be true. This right here is Richard E. Byrd. He was a naval officer who received the 2nd highest honor of valor given by the United States. So this guy is legit. And look what it says here. He was a polar explorer. And in his diary, To the Pole, he goes into complete detail about how he was let into this place by the angels who live there, taken underground, and given a message that he was supposed to deliver to the president, which he did.